following show is controversial and contains content you may find offensive. Listener discretion is advised. 98 FM's Dublin Talks. Dublin Talks with Adrian Kennedy.
Good morning. It is a Tuesday morning. How are you this morning? I'm Adrian Kennedy, and between now and midday today, this is 98 FM's Dublin Talks, the mid-morning talk and phone-in show for Dublin, by Dublin, and about Dublin. It is everything and anything to do with this wonderful city that we live in. Now, here's a rundown of what we're covering between now and 12. In just a moment, why irresponsible dubs, or how irresponsible dubs, are clocking up our sewerage system. Also going to be asking, should children born in Ireland to foreign parents get automatic citizenship? Something we touched on a couple of weeks ago, but now it's being debated in the Houses of the Oireachtas, and we're going to be asking how you feel about that. About 11:15, there was a huge reaction to our over-the-counter painkiller addiction topic yesterday. We'll have an update about this today, including an interview with someone who used to work in a chemist about how they stop painkillers getting into the wrong hands. And it was just kind of a continuation of the conversation yesterday, and we're going to be asking, because we didn't have time to fully get into this, we're going to be asking whether or not drugs like codeine should no longer be available over the counter. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. And after 11, how safe are women on Tinder? How do you feel about Tinder? Do you feel safe? We'll talk about that later on. We have a busy show between now and midday today, live from Dublin City Centre. This is 98 FM's Dublin Talks. Now, first off on the programme, I want to deal with this in a couple of minutes, and I want to get your opinions on this in a couple of minutes, and it is this. A new poll has shown that more than 7 in 10 people are in favour of an automatic right to Irish citizenship for people born here. A right that was removed by the referendum back in 2004. Now, the poll conducted at the weekend in the Sunday Times Irish edition comes on the back of a number of high-profile cases of children facing deportation. Now, you will be aware that following the 2004 citizenship referendum, children born in Ireland are only entitled to automatic citizenship if at least one of their parents is an Irish citizen or is entitled to be. Now, that referendum was passed by a whopping 79% in favour, but today's poll suggests that opinion may have shifted. Now, asked about the rules on citizenship, 71% said they believed being born here in Ireland should automatically entitle the person to citizenship, while 19% said it shouldn't, and 10% said they didn't know or had no opinion. And here's the question that I want to ask you. I want to run a Dublin Talks text poll. As we said, back in 2004, we had a referendum on this, and at the time, you will remember, we had pregnancy tourism, basically. People hopping off a plane, going straight to the maternity hospital and giving birth to a child. And before the referendum, they were entitled to Irish citizenship. That referendum removed that right. But what that essentially means, and this has been brought into focus by that young fellow from Bray, born of Chinese parents, born in Ireland, has never known any other life but life in Ireland, and this young fellow facing deportation. Well, this is now being debated in the Houses of the Oireachtas to look at perhaps changing the law. So the question I want to ask you is this. Should a child born in Ireland get automatic citizenship, regardless of where his parents are from, his or her parents are from? What I want you to do is text yes if you think they should get automatic citizenship, or no if you don't think they should get automatic citizenship. So I want you to bear in mind that some of these children, and that young fellow in Bray is a good example, and there have been many other examples. That young fellow in Bray has been living in Ireland since he was born. He was born here, has never known any other life, yet he is not entitled. He could be sitting next to a child in class who's Irish, who was born the same day as him, in the same hospital as him, and he's not entitled to citizenship, but the guy beside him is. So what I want you to do is text the word yes or no to 0877 98 98 98. And once again, the question is, should a child born in Ireland be entitled to automatic citizenship regardless of where his or her parents are from? Text yes or no to 0877 98 98 98. I'd be very interested to see how you feel, because according to the poll in the Times on Sunday, 71% believe that being born here should automatically entitle a person to citizenship. That used to be the way, then we changed it, and this poll would suggest that people want to change it back. So what I want you to do, as I said, is text the word yes or no to 0877 98 98 98. Should a child born in Ireland get automatic Irish citizenship? That's the question I'm asking you, because depending on public opinion on this, it could be time to go back to the polls and have another referendum on it. Text yes or no to 0877 98 98 98. Now, before I ever lived where I live now, I had never lived in a house that has a septic tank. And any of you who live in rural parts of Dublin or beyond who live in a house with a septic tank will know that there are certain things you just don't flush down the toilet. Wet wipes and sanitary products and condoms and all of that are an absolute no-no if you are on a septic tank at your house. But for the vast majority of people in Dublin, we're not on a septic tank. We just flush stuff down the toilet and don't think twice about it. Well, wet wipes and other sanitary products are causing more than 500 sewage blockages every month. In the first 9 months of this year, Irish Water estimates that it removed almost 5,000 blockages caused by such items from the sewer network. I'm joined on the line by Kate Gannon from Irish Water. Kate, I was explaining that before I lived in a house, which I do now, that has a septic tank, I would, like many people, just flush any old stuff down the toilet and it would just disappear, and I'd be happy enough with that. But it's not that simple.
No, I'm afraid it's not. And I think primarily it's just because people don't really realise the impact that they might be having on the network or on our environment. So every day people flush thousands of sanitary items such as cotton bud sticks, sanitary towels, nappies, cotton wool, condoms, cigarette stubs, lots of different things down the toilet. But they don't really realise that can cause significant problems in the network, and it can also have a knock-on effect on beaches and beach litter if there isn't proper treatment in place. So just as you've said, in the first 9 months of the year, we estimate that we removed about 4,700 blockages caused by this type of litter from the sewer network. So if you can imagine you have a pump in a system, or you have a pipe underneath the ground, and lots of people are just flushing these things down the toilet. A lot of them are composed of fibre or have fibre plastic in them, so they don't disintegrate like toilet paper would. So they're just floating through the system, and what can happen is they can reach a turn in the pipe, or they can all basically just start clogging up, and with fats, oils and greases and other things that people might be putting down their drain without realising, these can form big lumps or blockages in the network, and they can also form blocks at the inlet screens to our wastewater treatment plants, and they can also get caught on the blades of our pumps. So they all just gather in a way, and the pumps are still trying to turn and turn and turn. Eventually they just get clogged up and blocked.
Now, only a couple of weeks ago at my own house, we had a blockage which wasn't caused by wet wipes and wasn't caused by sanitary products. It was caused by actually thick toilet roll, believe it or not, that got caught on the pipes and caused a whole blockage. Now, that's only in one house, but the same sort of thing can happen on the entire network.
That's right. So I think people maybe just don't realise that a lot of these things don't disintegrate. What we usually say is only the 3 P's should be flushed down the toilet, which is pee, poo and paper. And when we talk about paper, we're just talking, as you say, about the traditional kind of toilet paper that would disintegrate quite easily in water. But any very thick types of wipes or nappies or any kind of sanitary towels.
Do people actually flush nappies down the toilet?
Yes.
Really? My God almighty.
I know, and the risk there is that it can cause immediate damage to your own house in terms of, blocking the internal plumbing in homes or in businesses. But then when it does actually get into the wastewater network, it can damage the pipes and the pumping stations, and then that costs a lot of money, which is a knock-on impact on everybody.
Okay, so, a lot of people use baby wipes or wet or water wipes or whatever they're called. But the fact of the matter is that flushing these down the toilet, they're not like toilet paper. They don't just go to mush. They stay as they are.
That's right. So I suppose what we're doing is Irish Water partners with Clean Coasts to raise awareness about the negative impact of these things and to just provide advice and information. So there's lots of information on thinkbeforeyouflush.org, but I suppose one of the simplest things that people can do is literally just to put a little bin in your bathroom and dispose of these sanitary items safely and appropriately. So that has a hugely positive impact on your own internal network. As you say, if you have a septic tank yourself, you'll see the difference immediately.
Yes.
But it'll also mean that the networks will be cleaner, and also that we'll have less of this beach litter as well. So the simplest thing you can do is just put a bin in your toilet. And
as I said, the learning curve for me, having always lived on the sewer network, and then to move to a house with a septic tank, I didn't realise there was such a difference. But the same principle really applies.
Absolutely, and I suppose I come from a house which had a septic tank as well, so I suppose I think it's just a lack of awareness. People just don't realise that when they flush things down the toilet, that they go somewhere, and then if you're flushing things down the toilet that don't disintegrate, like pee or poo or paper, then they're going to end up somewhere, and that could be a blockage in the system, could be a blockage in your house, or it could be doing a bit of damage to pumps and rags. Let's say one of the main wastewater treatment plants in Dublin, or the wastewater treatment plant currently in Dublin, is called Ringsend. That processes about 40% of the country's wastewater, and about 60 tonnes of ragging, that's what we call it, is removed from this plant alone on a monthly basis. So that gives you a kind of sense of the order of magnitude, the size and scale of the challenge that we're facing.
Okay, 60 tonnes a month?
Every month, yeah. Now that's the biggest currently. That's the biggest wastewater treatment plant in the country.
Yes, indeed. But still, 60 tonnes a month of stuff being retrieved from that plant that should never have been put down the toilet in the first place.
Absolutely, and as you say, surveys have been carried out by Clean Coasts and Irish Water on this, and I suppose when we did a survey at the beginning, about 3 in 10 adults living in Ireland said, yeah, sometimes I flush these things down the toilet, and the primary reason they were doing that was just a lack of awareness. They just didn't realise the impact that it would have on the system. So literally just simple things like having a bin in the bathroom, just being aware that the only things that should go down the toilet are pee, poo and paper will make a massive difference.
All right, I'll remember that one. Well, I already do, but it's an important lesson to be learned. Pee, poo and paper is all that should be flushed down the toilet, and wipes and sanitary products and everything else should go in the bin, because you're causing major problems on the sewage network. All right, thank you very much indeed, Kate Cannon from Irish Water, for joining us here at 98 FM.
Thanks so much.
All right, there you go. Remember that, pee, poo and paper, and that's it, nothing else. Don't flush anything else down the toilet, because they don't disintegrate. You have been warned. Mind you, I find it hard to believe that somebody actually flushed a nappy down the toilet. Who would actually do that? How do you actually get it around the U-bend? I despair sometimes. Anyway, pee, poo, paper, there you go. That's the lesson for the day. Now, let me go back to what I asked you to text in about, and some reaction, I have to say, to our question. And our question is, should children born in Ireland, regardless of their parents' nationality, be given an automatic right to citizenship? And as I said, this is something that used to happen. This is something that was the case before a 2004 referendum was held, where at that time 79% voted voted in favour of the referendum, which basically stopped kids getting automatic citizenship here in Ireland when their parents were foreign nationals. Now it appears, well, at least according to a new poll in the Sunday Times Ireland edition, conducted by Behaviour and Attitudes, it showed that 71% believed that being born here in Ireland should automatically entitle a person to citizenship. That's what the poll on Sunday showed. And we're running our own poll just to see whether or not people agree. And I have a feeling, I haven't got the results yet, but I have a feeling, looking at the messages coming in, that you don't. So if you want to vote on that, do it right now. What I want you to do is text the word yes or no to 0877 98 98 98. And again, the question is, should children born in Ireland to foreign non-national parents be given automatic citizenship rights here in Ireland? And this kind of was brought into focus again, and there have been a number of cases like this, but brought into focus again for a young boy from Bray in County Wicklow, born of Chinese parents, who faces deportation, even though he knows nothing but a life in Ireland, has a little Bray accent, and yeah, he's basically Irish of Chinese parents, but he's not. That's the thing. And we're asking whether or not kids like that should be given automatic citizenship rights here in Ireland. Text yes or no to 0877 98 98 98. I'll give you the results of that poll in a second. But Chris, you're against this. Why?
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you.
That's absolutely absurd, I have to say, because in the first place, that young fella which lives in Bray was born to illegal immigrants. So that's by law. He should be deported. Doesn't matter was he born in Ireland or not. Because his parents...
Okay, but he was born in Ireland, and more importantly, not only was he born in Ireland, he's been living in the country since he was born, and he's 9 or 10 now, so he knows nothing but a life in Ireland. He's essentially Irish, and in fact, if he went back to China, he wouldn't know what hit him.
Yeah, but see, the problem is, that's how badly the laws are working in here. There should be, doesn't matter, his parents with him, or before even he was born, they should be deported from Ireland.
Okay, but the fact is, for whatever reason, they weren't immediately deported from Ireland, and they've been in the country ever since. I don't know the precise circumstances of their appeal to stay or whatever, but it appears that whole process has come to an end now, and they're facing deportation with a young fella who knows nothing but a life in Ireland.
You see, the thing is, just open borders in every country, in Europe, and let everyone in, and women get pregnant, just to have a child born with citizenship in hand, and then, all right, what's next? Or we have to extend citizenship laws to parents, so that's
okay, you believe that it is open to abuse in the way in which it was being abused before 2004?
Absolutely, and there will be abuse even more and more. Once you let one case slip out, and make it public, and everyone is saying, oh yeah, they are very poor, let them stay, that will happen in thousands. That's the thing, just let one, and that will be a whole pile of the case which suddenly will pop out, and then one went public. And got, you can stay, you get citizenship, then your parents probably will, because you can't leave a kid which is 10 years old on his own in this country, on any country, because it's
they need parents, yes.
Against, exactly, and suddenly you will see thousands of those cases, just popping out, that's I think that's madness. Actually, letting.
Okay, you believe that the whole thing will be abused. As a matter of interest, where are you from yourself, Chris?
I'm originally from Poland.
From Poland, okay. So you have obviously a right to live here. You have a right to work here, like every other member of the European Union. Have you children here?
No.
No, okay, right. But you haven't gotten there yet.
No. I got my daughter. She's 24 years old, and she lives in the other country.
Okay.
In home country. So it's
okay. But as somebody living and working here, you believe that it would open the floodgates and is open to abuse.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely believe in so.
Okay, stay there for 1 second. 6797 981 is our telephone number. You can text or WhatsApp the programme on 0877 98 98 98. Big interest in this. We'll take another couple of calls after the break, and I'll give you the results of our poll asking the same question that the Sunday Times asked on Sunday. You'd be interested in the results of it. Liz, I'm going to talk to you straight after the break, but you'd also be concerned that this will open the floodgates.
Yes, definitely. It just goes back to the way it was before, and you'll have everybody that's saying now that we need another effort. It needs to be changed. You'll have all them people telling you, oh, we need to change it back.
Okay, stay there for 1 second. I'll be with you straight after the break. We're asking whether or not children born in Ireland should be given automatic citizenship rights. This is something that is being debated in the House of the Oireachtas at the moment. And we're asking how you feel, because an opinion poll on Sunday said that 71% believe that being born here should automatically entitle a person to citizenship. Now, that's in complete contrast to the referendum that we had back in 2004, where 79% disagreed. So the poll on the Sunday Times would suggest our whole attitude has changed here in Ireland. However, our opinion poll on Dublin Talks, now it's not by any means scientifically accurate, but it's an indication, at a very high volume of responses to our poll, 81% of you said no. Oh, so you're very clear about it. That's nearly the same as the referendum back in 2004. That was 79%. 81% of you in our poll this morning have said no. So I don't know who the Sunday Times polled the other day, because it would appear that we don't agree. 81% of you have said no, we should not kids born in Ireland should not get automatic citizenship. Interesting. So the exact same as the referendum back in 2004. Now, Liz, your point is that this will open the floodgates in the same way that the floodgates were opened before that referendum in 2004.
Yeah, I think so. I agree with a lot of what your last caller said. I just don't think it's practical to do it, because you will have that same influx of people coming in specifically to have children. Do you know what I mean? Arriving here 8 months pregnant, ready to drop, walking into the maternity hospitals. And then, as your last caller said, what do you do with their parents? You can't just give their child citizenship and say, oh, well, okay, well, since your kid is an Irish citizen, you can stay. Do you know what I mean? So, like,
and that is what was happening before 2004. And you feel that if we were to change the rules back to the way they used to be, then the same thing would happen again. You'd have people arriving. You'd
have the same problems, yeah, and then you'd have what was it, 71% according to that poll with the Irish Times, like.
Yes.
I think it's great that we all think, oh yeah, these kids should be given citizenship, and it's probably due to this case of the Umflet and Bray. But I don't see anything coming out with a solution of what you do with their parents. It
is on the back of the young fella in Bray, and people obviously have that in their mind. Mind you, I don't know, like I said, I don't know who the Times interviewed for this, because they're completely different than the people who listen to this show, because 81% of our listeners this morning said that no, they should not get automatic citizenship.
And I think an awful lot of the country would feel the way of your poll rather than the Times poll, because I don't see it being a practical thing to reverse that law again and make children citizens. I mean,
so how do you deal? Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
I just don't understand, like, what have they been doing in 10 years? Now, I understand, like, it's their laws that obviously
that are
for whatever reason,
yes.
That held up. But the thing is, if that child is only 9-10 years old, they had that child already. We're in the laws that we have at the moment to where that child didn't get automatic citizenship. So what have they been doing in the 10 years that the child is alive to get that citizenship, or to try to get themselves citizenship if they've been here that long? Do you know what I mean? Hanging around waiting on the system to occur. I mean, I don't get it. I don't get why they're in the system that long. Here.
Okay, all right, so a definite no, even to young Eric from Bray.
No, I think more of the circumstances of that particular situation need to be heard rather than us just knowing, oh, well, he was born here 10 years ago to Chinese parents and now we want to kick him out. There's obviously more there.
Well, his mother's appeal. Yeah, his mother's appeal against deportation was rejected. It's as simple as that, and that means he has to go as well. That is the case. Like, the choice born here or not, at the end of the day, he was born here while there was a law in this country saying that just because you're born here doesn't make you an Irish citizen unless one of your parents are Irish. And that was already established in law before he was born. If he's only 10 years old, that law was already in effect 4 years before he was born. Yeah, that's exactly right. But like I said, I'm curious to know who the Times surveyed, because it's definitely not being reflected here today. Let me just bring in one last call on this, and that's you, Jay. You're on 98 FM. How are you?
Morning, Adrian.
Morning, Jay. How are you?
Not bad.
Now, what did you want to say?
Well, I agree as well. There's no way they should be given Irish citizenship. You know, you're just rewarding the parents for breaking the law. You know, like, they knew what they were doing when they came in. They played the system, they dragged it out as long as they could, didn't win, so now they go and looking for the public sympathy. No way. You know what I mean?
But it's not their fault either. It's not their fault either that they've been left in the country. No. Hang on for 1 second. It's not their fault that it took so long for them, for our system to eventually decide that they didn't qualify and they were to be deported. The young fella's nearly a teenager.
Hang on a second. They came into the country illegally, anyways, to start with, straight off the bat. The minute they landed in the country, they broke the law.
I get that. I understand that. But we've such a...
That's where the line was drawn, okay? Everything they done after that was to try to circumvent the law.
I understand all of that. But our system is so bad.
Now remember as well, for how long have they been in the country? 11 years, something like that?
About that, yeah.
Where have they been getting their income from? How much taxes have they been paying on their income? How much PRSO have they been paying?
Well, now you're getting very personal. This is a This is a principle of the fact that
the law since the day they landed in the country.
I understand,
and people want to reward them.
Okay, but we have a system that is so poor in terms of dealing with asylum cases that this young fella's nearly a grown adult, for God's sake. And
I totally agree with you. The system is broken. It should be fast-tracked. They should have everything, their initial application and all their appeals sorted out within 6 months.
Correct.
That's the way I see it.
Yes, I agree. But we don't. We have a young fella who's nearly...
That's the problem we have.
Okay, but we've a young fella now who is essentially Irish.
On that young fella all the time.
But it's a great example.
Law-breaking parents.
But it's a great example of how.
They're all great examples. Should we just say, sure, you're here, we say you go, you're grand? No. Because if you do that, the next lot that come over will do the same thing next year. And then the next lot the year after. You have to draw a line. End of. We drew a line, we had a referendum. The law's the law. Send them home.
Right. So 81% have said, in our poll today, have said no, children born in Ireland to non-national parents should not get automatic citizenship rights.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I'd love to know as well who that Times poll. I think they just make stuff like that up.
Well, it was a reputable firm that did it. It was Behaviour and Attitudes.
How many people did he poll, did it say?
It doesn't actually say, believe it or not.
Like 10 people, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, it would appear...
It could be as low as 10 people.
I mean, somebody just texted in, your poll just shows that the Irish readers are far more educated than the Times readers are far more educated than your listeners. Because
you see, that doesn't actually prove that point. Because how many of them were actually Times readers? You don't know that either?
No.
That's a ridiculous comment to make.
For the poll to be properly accurate, they wouldn't all be Times readers. So
well, there you go then. So yeah, man, whoever sent that message is just a gobshite.
Okay, so for those debating this issue in the Houses of the Oireachtas, you're wasting your time because the public, from what we're hearing today, do not back your any plans to reverse those laws. All right, thank you very much indeed for all of your calls. You're with 98 FM's Dublin Talks. This is Adrian Kennedy. Now, Are you somebody, and I have to put myself in this category, unfortunately, and it causes awful grief for me at home. Are you somebody who constantly checks your mobile phone? New research today from Deloitte suggests that the average Irish phone user picks up their phone 55 times every day. Well, which is remarkably down from 57 times last year. But still, the average Irish person picks up their phone 55 times every day. The company's annual mobile consumer survey also says the percentage of Irish adults who believe they use their phone excessively has climbed up to 56% from a previous 50%. And my question to you is, are you somebody who uses your phone excessively? Now, unfortunately, I have to put myself into that category. I use it probably too much. Now, I use it for all sorts of things, from taking photographs to playing games sometimes, to writing documents, and then the odd time I'd make a phone call or send a text message or whatever. But I do use my phone an awful lot. I check it for everything, for the weather and, well, basically anything that a smartphone can do. But are you somebody who excessively uses your mobile phone? I'd love to hear from you on 6797 981. You can text or WhatsApp the programme 0877 98 98 98. 0877 98 98 98. 13% check their phones, get a load of this, check their phones in excess of 100 times every day, or at least once every 10 minutes, assuming they spend 8 hours asleep. Now, there's a great new feature on the latest iPhones, which enables you to look at, to see what your screen time has been. So let me just have a look at my use in the last week. Let me have a look now. In the last week, I have used my phone. I've had it in my hand. Oh my God. An average of 4 hours, 46 minutes a day. That's me. And if you have one of those, if you have an iPhone, have a look at that section. You go into settings and you go down to screen time. I'm not sure if all the Android phones do this, but the iPhone certainly does. And it'll tell you how much you have used your phone in the last 7 days. And in the last 7 days, I've used my phone on average for 4 hours and 46 minutes. The most use was last Wednesday, and the least use was Saturday. I didn't use it much on Saturday, but I used it lots last Wednesday. I used it lots yesterday, but last Saturday I didn't use it that much. But 4 hours, 46 minutes is how much I use my phone in a day. That's actually that's come as a bit of a shock to me, because I've never really looked at those statistics until I've looked at it now. Are you somebody who uses your phone a ridiculous amount? And what sort of problems does it cause? I know at home, what it causes for me is my other half saying, get that bloody phone out of your hand. And she regularly says that. And she's probably right, in fairness. Shane, you're on 98 FM. How are you, Shane?
Not bad, how are you?
Good, thanks, Shane. What did you want to say?
I agree with it. Like, we do. I think, especially myself, like, I do more so in the evenings when I'm finished work, because I can't be on the phone during work because I drive a lot. But yeah, no, like my kids, trying to have a conversation with my kids when I come home with them, even on their phones, is ridiculous. Like, they're playing the games, and especially the wife. The wife's the worst of the whole lot. Even the kids would say, like, we could actually be slagging the wife off to her face, and she's just going, yep, but she's too busy on her phone. And we could be saying absolutely anything.
Now, I have to say, and in fact, if you're, like I said, I don't know if it's the case on Android phones, but I have an iPhone here, and I've always used iPhones, and my iPhone tells me in screen time that I use it on average 4 hours, 47 minutes a day.
Mine's 6.5 hours a day, roughly speaking. 6.5
hours a day?
Yeah, roughly speaking. Yeah.
And you're somebody who can't, you can't use it in work?
I generally don't use it in work. It's more so when I go home. Like,
so you make up those 6 hours outside of work?
Between work and that, yeah, I do, unfortunately, yeah.
Wow. Okay, but
it's loads, like.
What I want our listeners to do is, if your phone has that setting that it can analyse your screen time, I know it's certainly there on the iPhones. Okay, so what you do is if you have an iPhone, you go into settings and then go to screen time, and then it will give you the last 7 days. And it'll tell you 4 hours, well, it does for me, 4 hours, 47 minutes on average every day. Text in how long your phone says you used it for on average. Okay? And sure, I'll throw in some IMC cinema passes as well. So just text or WhatsApp us now to 0877 98 98 98. What does your phone say you use it for in the last 7 days? For me, it's an average of 4 hours, 47 minutes, which I have to say, Shane, I'm very shocked by. I'm really shocked.
You don't realise, like, if you're having a conversation with someone by text message, or if you're looking at your videos, or you're looking at things, you think about a video is 3 or 4 minutes long, and you're looking at 10 of them, there's 40 minutes gone. Do you know what I mean? And then it builds up. Well, we have a rule, myself and my wife have a rule that when we go out on a date night, that they're forced to pick up the phone, pays the bill.
Oh, really?
That's it. Oh, yeah, forcing to pick up the phone on date night, pays the bill. Ridiculous. That's it. End of story.
Actually, I'd be interested to know if others have rules regarding mobile phones. That's actually a good idea.
But you ever see when you go into some pubs nowadays, there's people actually having dinner and on dates and actually showing each other Facebook messages that they can see themselves that other friends are sending.
I witnessed a couple sitting opposite each other in a restaurant a couple of weeks back, and they weren't even talking to each other. They're both looking at their phones. Not a bit of conversation went on between them.
We were out for dinner on Sunday night, and I swear to God, there must be about 30 people in the restaurant, and probably myself, my wife, there was an elderly couple in the corner, and one more couple were the only ones having conversations. Everyone else was sitting there glued to their phone. That's it, like.
Okay, text or WhatsApp me on 0877 98 98 98 and let me know what rules you might have in your house regarding mobile phones. And also, text us in if you have this facility on your phone, your screen time for the last week. So you just literally go into the screen time setting in an iPhone anyway, and go to all devices. And all devices for me says 4 hours, 47 minutes. Now, Marie.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk to you straight after the break. Yours is kind of shocking, is it?
Yeah.
Okay, stay there. I'll be with you after the break. This is 98 FM's Dublin Talks.
98 FM's Dublin Talks. With Des Kelly Interiors. Delivering your new mattress in time for Christmas. DesKelly.ie. 98 FM.
We're in the middle of a conversation about basically people who are addicted to their mobile phones. Now, I'm trying to find if Android phones have the same facility that iPhones have to tell you what your screen time is. Now, somebody texted in to say, my iPhone doesn't have it. It's probably because you haven't updated the software in your iPhone if it doesn't have it. But it's very easy to find on the iPhone. You go into settings and then scroll down to screen time, and then you go into screen time, and it's kind of shocking for me because on average I've used my phone 4 hours 48 minutes per day. So go into yours and have a look and text it to me. We've some people 3 hours 27 minutes a day. Marie, why is yours so shocking?
Because it's 8 hours.
Ooh, 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
And is that on an iPhone? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and what that calculates is how long you have your phone in your hand and looking at it and using it on a daily basis. And like I said, I'm very shocked that mine was 4 hours 48 minutes, but yours is 8 hours.
Yeah.
What do you be doing?
Well, I play a lot of games from, say, about 6 till I go to bed. It could be about 12 o'clock. But then the kids do have it during the day. Playing games on it. Playing
games as well. But you're, out of the 8 hours, are you making up 5 of those hours?
Yeah, at least, yeah.
It's a lot of time to have a phone in your hand, isn't it?
Yeah.
Were you shocked by it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to admit, I'm very shocked by it as well. 4 hours, 48 minutes. But, yeah, that's 8 hours. It's an awful lot. In fact, Shannon, you didn't even know about screen time before the show today.
No, I didn't.
So what have you learned?
I've learned that I use my phone for 9 minutes a day. I think that's wrong.
9 minutes. Now, could it be that you, on the setting, it says today, so today I've used my phone already. Oh my God, I've used it already 2 hours and 3 minutes. But on average in the last 7 days, I've used it 4 hours 48. Have you gone to last 7 days?
Yeah, that's what it says, 7 days. It said 0 for the last week, but I didn't update my phone. My update came like 2 weeks ago or something, so I think that's wrong.
Why? How long do you think you've been using your phone?
I'd say easily 8 hours, like when I'm in college especially. Like,
it's in your hand constantly, is it?
Yeah, well, especially like I'd use it for my notes and everything, like.
Because one of the features that it does have is, for example, I'm addicted to one particular game on my phone and I play it an awful lot, any opportunity I get. But you can set a limit on it, which will limit it to, I don't know, you can limit it to 2 hours a day if you wanted to, or half an hour a day. And it'll just give you a warning saying you're exceeding your limit. It's self-imposed.
Yeah.
But you reckon you're using yours for a lot longer than the phone is telling you?
Oh, definitely, yeah, definitely.
Are you shocked?
Yeah. I wanted to see, I was interested to see how long.
Yeah, I mean, it really is food for thought when I see that out of a 24-hour day, nearly 5 hours of my day is wasted on my phone. I'm thinking, this is a problem.
Yeah.
I really am. I genuinely am. I'm really taken aback by it. Marie, is this something you're going to start dealing with?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, no, I am myself. I know if my missus is listening, she's going to be saying, woohoo, it's about bloody time, Kennedy. Because she's always at me, get that bloody phone out of your hand. Put down the phone. And does anybody else have rules regarding phone use? Like you heard our caller a couple of minutes ago saying when they go out for dinner, the first one to pick up their phone pays for dinner, which I think is a great idea. So there's a real incentive not to pick up your phone. Terry in Clontarf says, mine is 6 hours, 48 minutes, but over 4 hours is Google Maps as I'm in a new van sales job on areas I'm not overly familiar with. Okay, that's a reasonable explanation for it. I do use my phone a lot for driving as well, as a sat-nav or whatever. Aoife.
Hey, how are you?
Aoife, you've a problem.
Yeah, so I deleted Facebook and Twitter, just all the social media apps off my phone, because it's 3 hours and 10 minutes every day. I was like, no, this has to go.
Yeah.
So it's down to like an hour now.
It really is shocking. So you're going to start making changes, are you?
Yeah, I've already changed it down to an hour now from last week, so it's not too bad.
All right, well, the best of luck in cutting down, and I'm going to try it myself. I'm going to look at this time next week and see has it improved. And in fact, interestingly, my 4 hours 48 minutes is down 18% from last week. I wonder what it was last week. This is 98 FM's Dublin Talks. There was a huge reaction to our interview yesterday with a woman who ended up in a coma after she became addicted to over-the-counter painkillers. For those of you who didn't hear yesterday's programme, I want to just bring you just a little bit of highlights of people that we spoke to yesterday who are or were addicted to painkillers. And then we're going to talk about whether or not codeine should be an over-the-counter only medication. This is from yesterday, starting with a lady called Paula.
I used to take 48 Nurofen Plus before I would get into the shower to go to work. And it wasn't until I was living in my apartment in Butterfield Avenue when my sisters couldn't get me on the phone, but they knew that I was fooling around with tablets, and they came to my apartment and they found me unresponsive on the floor. I spent 2 weeks in a coma in Tala Hospital. I went into multiple organ failure, and then I had to go on kidney dialysis for months afterwards. And when I came out of hospital, I made a phone call to Bagot Street Hospital, and I said I need help. And I won't go into it there, but they got me clean.
What changes would you like to see happen within the pharmaceutical industry, with chemists? What do you want to see happen to stop people like yourself becoming addicted to painkillers?
Put them on prescription. Anything with the likes of codeine in them. Codeine is a drug. You know, it's a drug like heroin. It's a drug like cocaine. It's like speed. Any of those. None of those would be sold over the counter in a chemist with, you know, okay, here's cocaine with ibuprofen. It's great for a pain in your back. Codeine is not highlighted enough that it is a highly addictive drug. They should be taken down off the counters. Nobody should be able to walk in and buy an item with codeine in it.
I'm joined on the line by a lady whose name we've changed and whose voice we have disguised. For what reason, Joanne? Why am I changing your name and your voice?
Basically, I just wanted to change because I'm afraid that somebody that I'm related to will hear me and know that it's me.
Okay, so what? You are also addicted to painkillers, to Solpadeine.
Yeah, to Solpadeine. I started taking two about 6 years ago, and over the past 6 years, it's just kind of spiraled out of control. To the point where I take about 18 to 20 a day now. It's basically a large box a day that I take.
A box of Solpadeine every day?
Yeah. I did try and give them up, but you get like mad withdrawals from them. You know, you get really sick. It's like almost coming off heroin. Like Paula, like I work, I hold down a job, I'm stable, I'm not crazy, it's just, I don't know how I got to this point where I'm taking so many each day. No, I want to get off them. I want to, I don't want to be taking them every day and hiding it from everyone, hiding it in work, and it's not a good way to live,
Philip, you're on 98 FM. How are you, Philip?
Adrian, how are you keeping?
I'm good, thank you. Your addiction to painkillers was so severe that you ended up on a drug that's normally used to treat people addicted to heroin.
That's right, yeah. I ended up in a Beaumont Hospital in St. Michael's. I was actually in there twice. The first time was only for 2 weeks. For 2 weeks, I was put on methadone, but they brought me down too quickly, and then I ended up back in there. Then I think it was about 4 or 5 months later. Now, this time, the second time I was in for a month and a half.
And what were the tablets you were taking?
Exactly the same, Nurofen Plus, exactly the same. Let's just say that lady Joanne, she needs to go to either her own doctor and just explain the situation and let the doctor kind of follow through or take that number off yourselves that you were giving her. Because it gets worse. Like that, I started off just with headaches, and I was taking a few a day, and then that spiraled. But at the peak of what I was doing, I was easily taking 80 tablets a day.
80 tablets a day?
80 tablets. Well, your body just builds, like a heroin addict, your body just builds an immunity to it. Hence the reason why I had to go on methadone. It literally destroyed my life, like to the point where like my whole family knew. I had gotten so desperate, like they were even going to chemists. And I know they shouldn't have been, but they were even going to chemists to get me some. Just because, obviously, I was actually banned from a few chemists because I would have made a mistake in going in there twice on the one day, or going in there the day after the day I was there.
Okay, now there are a few calls from yesterday's programme. I'd love to hear from you right now on 6797 981. Should the sale of codeine over the counter be stopped? We're back in a couple of minutes. Live and exclusive to Dublin's 98 FM, Monday through Friday. This is Adrian Kennedy. This is 98 FM's Dublin Talks. And Georgie is here with Tuesday's top headlines.
Thanks, Adrian. Good morning. It's claimed elderly people are afraid to go to the shops after dark in Drimna, with reports of increasing antisocial behaviour. Sinn Féin councillor Dahi Doolan is calling for a task force to be established to tackle the issues. Heavy rain with a risk of hail and thunder is expected across the city today. A status yellow rainfall warning has been issued. Funding for 2 public toilets in town was approved at last night's City Council budget meeting. €200,000 has been allocated for the project, which will begin next year. And both Aer Lingus and Ryanair have launched Black Friday sales. Aer Lingus is offering a discount on flights to North America. Meanwhile, Ryanair has launched a Cyber Week sale with flight discounts to a number of European destinations. Now you're up to date on 98.
98 FM's Dublin Talks. Dublin Talks with Adrian Kennedy.
We are here until midday today. I hope everything is good in your world this Tuesday. I'm Adrian Kennedy and this is 98 FM's Dublin Talks. Yesterday, there was a huge reaction to our interview with a woman who ended up in a coma after she became extremely addicted to over-the-counter painkillers. Our lines were flooded with calls from other people who are addicted to painkillers, which can be bought in a chemist as easily as you buy sweets in a shop. Okay, you have to answer a little question and you're told you shouldn't use them for more than 3 days and everything else. But it's a system that is open to abuse. Now, if you missed yesterday's show, you heard some of the calls that we had on the show yesterday. But here's the question that I want to ask you. Do you think there should be more restrictions on people who want to buy painkillers like Nurofen Plus or Solpadeine that contain codeine? Because codeine is the addictive ingredient in these tablets. These are what people like Paula got literally strung out on. Couldn't go a day without having 48 of them. So how do we stop a woman like that going into several different chemists in one day and stocking up on boxes of pills? Is it time to make them unavailable over the counter? Our telephone number is 6797 981. You can text or WhatsApp the programme on 0877 98 98 98. 0877 98 98 98. I'm joined on the line by Katrina O'Riordan, who is a member of the Irish Pharmaceutical Union Executive. She's also a pharmacist herself. Let me ask you firstly, Katrina, what rules are in place for the sale of codeine?
Thank you. So basically, if somebody comes to the counter and they're looking to buy a strong painkiller containing codeine, the first thing we do is we refer them to the pharmacist in our store, and then I would come out and I suppose we have to go through, maybe a bit in detail as to why they need it. Now, I mean, some people, if they just need a painkiller, they can be a little bit upset by that, but it's basically to find out what kind of pain they're experiencing. Are they actually even seeking the correct medication? Because sometimes, their friend said, oh, get X, Y, or Z, it's really good. And, it may not be appropriate for a sprained ankle or something like that. So sometimes in the course of that initial, couple of sentences even, you will discover that they actually don't need the codeine-containing product, that something else available without codeine is actually more appropriate for their type of pain. If, for example, we have then ascertained that they do need the codeine-containing product, we would go through with them that they need to step down quite quickly to a non-codeine product or non-opioid product, so that they would really use it just for the shortest possible period of time. And we would go through with them in detail the dangers of using it for longer periods of time, such as you well know, the dependency issue, or even things like chronic daily headache if they're using painkillers on too many days per week or per month. So I suppose in the course of that interaction, very often other details may come out as to how often they are using painkillers, whether they've seen a doctor, been to a hospital, etc. So, it's very much tailored towards the individual we're talking to. Okay, now on yesterday's programme, as I explained, we had a number of different people who became severely addicted to codeine. Some people taking like 48 tablets a day. It became that chronic. But they were still able to beat the system, if you like. Are the rules strict enough? I suppose the rules are, I would see them being as strict as they possibly can be, in that there is a level of effort involved on the part of the person who wishes to purchase them, and on the part of ourselves. And I think we're trained professionals. We, I suppose, deal with illness, medication, etc. Day in, day out. And I think pharmacists will very quickly know who they're dealing with, and try to encourage that person to use a different painkiller, or to engage with services such as their GP or other, counselling or addiction services.
But because it's an over-the-counter medication, there's no record kept of it being distributed. So I know myself, I went into a pharmacist a couple of months ago. I asked for Solpadeine. The lady behind the counter did tell me that I shouldn't be on it for more than 3 days and so on. But I was able to buy it, no problem. And I could, if I wanted to, have gone to the chemist down the road and the chemist around the corner and done the exact same thing again. So it doesn't really restrict it, does it?
Well, no, absolutely, I would agree. Of course you could do that, but you probably couldn't do it for very long, or certainly not in a very small geographic area. I suppose the public might be surprised how quickly we pick up on these things, and we'd be working day in, day out in the same pharmacy. You become very, very aware of who your customers are and who your patients are. I would agree, however, I have been aware in the past myself of a very sad situation where a young lady was driving at least the length and breadth of Cork County every single day. So her entire day's work was to go to different towns on different days per week or per month to make it look as if she was only getting it maybe once every month or 6 weeks. And I suppose, in that situation, you can't do anything at the individual point of sale other than, try and support the person and go through it. But that situation was resolved in that pharmacists were able to make it known, and an alert was put out, and that person engaged very much with their GP, and I'm happy to say that they're very well today. So while you can't 100% prevent escalation of a situation, there are checks and balances in place to do your best.
Is there a case, or is there an argument to be made, which was made by one of our callers yesterday, and this is the lady who ended up in a coma as a result of severely overdosing on pain medication. Is there a case, and this is what she was arguing for, that drugs containing codeine should be on prescription only?
I can understand. Obviously, from her point of view, she probably felt that it would have protected her a little bit more. Having said that, you can see things like the US where opioid or like particular brands which are prescription only. There's huge issues. So I don't think it being on prescription necessarily would alleviate the problem, because that's a whole other level where people are there are falsified prescriptions. There are people attending different GPs out of hours to try and get medication. So I suppose we can see all the wider picture, and we don't see that it would necessarily be any better to put it on prescription. I suppose as well, codeine is a very safe and effective medication when it's used correctly, and I think perhaps the likes of yourself, who needs it for a specific reason, you went through the counselling with the pharmacist, and it was clear that it was safe and effective and would be the best painkiller for you in that situation. I think that would apply to the vast majority of the population, and it wouldn't really make sense to put it on prescription for people who can use it. And I suppose it's not that you can pick it off the shelf. There is a process that you need to go through, and there is room in that process for engagement. And I suppose for us to kind of engage our patients, you can walk in, you don't need an appointment, so it is easy for you to access us, and then I suppose we can make a judgment call on the medication.
But by your own admission, it is a system that is open to abuse.
I think any system is open to abuse when somebody is, unfortunately suffering to that level. I think when you are that desperate for something, you can get anything you want. Let's face it, and I suppose the important thing would be for us, from our point of view, at the very, very basic level, the first day you walk in and you need a strong painkiller, for you to get the right counselling at the right time, and from there on in to be afforded the opportunity to speak to somebody about it. I would have had a situation where I would have intervened with somebody even before these rules came into place. So pharmacists have always been keeping an eye on these things, and she opened up, she broke down, she admitted to me that things were really tough. We engaged with her GP, supported her to go and speak to him, and she was put on a process of reducing down and eventually coming off the medication. So I think really the fact that you can access the medication in a pharmacy also means that you have access to a professional who understands situation, and who can talk you through it without any barriers of having to, make appointments, make a particular effort to go and see somebody.
All right. Katrina O'Riordan, member of the Irish Pharmacy Union Executive, thank you very much indeed for joining us on 98 FM.
Thanks a million.
Now, we did contact numerous pharmacies the length and breadth of Dublin today, and for some reason they were very cagey to talk about this. Really? Because they know in their heart and soul that this system is being abused widely. And they have certain protocols, and they're meant to say, no, you were here yesterday or whatever. But they know in their heart and soul that many, many people are abusing the system. We did speak to one pharmacist who, by total contrast to that lady from the Irish Pharmaceutical Union, does want to see codeine-based medication being available only over the counter. And she was quite clear about that because, again, she is seeing how the system is being abused. Now, Claire, you used to work in a pharmacy, and this is a big problem.
Yeah, it really is, hugely. Just people kind of... You do have the people who are genuine, but it's you're kind of told working in a pharmacy to use your judgment or to look out for certain signs. But with some people, it can be very difficult. Like, they can be very good actors,
And I believe you've had an instance where people just lost the plot with you when you said you can't have that medication again.
Yeah, definitely. We used to have a reoccurring woman who used to come in for tablets that actually, funny enough, like they didn't even have codeine in them, but she thought that they were doing something in the paracetamol in them, which was damaging her liver. After taking them so many times, I had noticed after a few weeks that she was continuously coming in every 3 days looking for a pack of 24 of these, which can be really dangerous for your liver. And she used to come in. It was kind of in a supermarket, so she used to come in, take a basket to kind of make it look like she was doing her shopping, come down to the pharmacy, ask for some more, and one day eventually I had to say to her, I'm sorry, I can't sell these to you anymore. You've taken too many. I've sold too many. They could be damaged or whatever. And she threw her basket at me.
She threw her shopping basket.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. They did. She was so nice and lovely when she came to the counter, and she was really, oh hi, how are you? Smiled, laughed, everything like that. And as soon as I said no, it was just complete change in personality, and flipped out and just threw the basket at me.
Okay, so that was clearly somebody who either took offence to being told she can't have the medication, or had a problem with the medication and was using it far too much.
Definitely had a problem. Her reaction, you could tell that she was frustrated because I wouldn't give them to her.
So, from what you could see, obviously even though you have to ask certain questions and there are certain protocols and everything else, you could obviously see that people are abusing the system. They may not be coming to your pharmacy all the time to get medication, but you know in your heart and soul that they're getting it elsewhere.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like, it's one of those things. There's a few stories that you can tell, certain symptoms that are definite that you're going to be given these tablets. Rather, it seems like, women may come in and say, I've got really bad period pain and normal painkillers aren't working. And, you kind of have to say, oh, okay. And usually in that scenario, they're handed over quite easily with no question asked. So, a person like that, and if that person has gone into another pharmacy or come into my pharmacy and they've asked a few times, I'll eventually say, no, look, I'm sorry, you're only supposed to be taking them for 3 days. You need to try normal painkillers again, which I always advise. But all they need to do is go down to the road to a pharmacy that they may not have been to before, and they're handed straight over them.
Somebody just sent us a message how are they always putting the prices up every few weeks on the tablets? They're making a fortune from people buying them. Do you think that this is something that pharmacists are just kind of going along with in terms of implementing the rules, but really they're happy to just sell them?
I think, pharmacists, generally when people do come in for tablets, we'd offer a generic one, which is cheaper. There are cheaper versions of even codeine products or of ibuprofen products, but what the problem is that people have this psychological thing that they think that the brand Nurofen is the only thing that's going to work for them. Do you know what I mean? So if they see a generic with no branding or anything on it, they're thinking, no, I don't want that, even though it's cheaper.
All right.
It's the same thing.
Thanks very much indeed, Claire. Peter, you're on 98 FM. How are you, Peter?
How's it going, Adrian?
Good, thanks, Peter. What did you want to say?
All the arguments, like, I feel bad for the people who are addicted. I lost my friend 4 days before his birthday party to basically prescription pills, and he was addicted to codeine and stuff like that. And
you said you lost your friend?
Yeah, he died. Like, he overdosed in his bedroom.
Wow. Just to prescription medication?
All from prescription pills. He smoked a bit of pot every now and again, but that didn't kill him. When we got the inquest into his death, the toxicology report basically said it was all his organs failed while he was in his sleep.
Which is exactly what we heard from that woman yesterday, who fortunately did survive, but she went into multiple organ failure.
All her organs started to fail. All his organs started to fail. He died in his sleep. They say he was peaceful, but you don't die in your sleep. You don't die peacefully. But anyway, my argument is, a couple of months ago you had a section on your show about antidepressants, about how many antidepressants are being distributed in Ireland, and now it's about everybody. Ireland is a pill mill, and according to the CSO figures, like, we always hear about road deaths, 189 people, and we do all of this effort and all to bring the road deaths down. The biggest killer in Ireland, other than heart disease and cancer, is prescription pills. The top 3 overdosing drugs in Ireland are benzos and stuff like that. It's not heroin, it's not ecstasy, it's not anything like that, but yet these drugs are vilified. My argument is, like, everybody's on saying they're bad this, they're bad that, they're bad this. That's all the same reasons that people are given to keep medical cannabis illegal. So if you're keeping medical cannabis illegal because we don't know this and we don't know that, and the biggest one that people use is, the children, what about the children if they get their hands on it? All my child has to do is pull the chair over to the counter, step up onto the press. What happens if your child eats 12 paracetamol and you don't know? You know what I mean? So
you would like to see at least this medication being on prescription only?
You should not be able to buy any painkillers. We're told medical cannabis, it might kill. You could ingest a kilo of the stuff, and the worst thing that will happen to you is you might vomit, and you'll definitely fall asleep and be hungry. But every painkiller, if you were to take, the pharmacists tell you don't take more than 2 of these in these amount of hours, because if you swallow a couple of more paracetamol, you're going to die. Simple as. So if you need paracetamol, I know everybody's like, you'll have to go to the doctor. If you're on a medical card, that makes no difference. And the state should bring in, they have drug payment schemes and stuff like that. So ring your doctor and tell your doctor. And if your doctor then knows, hold on a minute, Peter's after getting, for instance, in 2013, I went to my doctor with a shoulder injury, and I told him I didn't want, the amount of pills he was giving me was unbelievable. I woke up one night thinking I was a pirate and had a row with my wife because she hid me treasure. And that's no word of a lie. I went into it, I don't want any more of them pills. Then I had another accident with me back less than a year ago, and he wouldn't give me pills because there was a thing on my file from 2014 to say there was a mention about me with pills. It was like, that was me telling you I don't want any more pills.
Okay, now, we've been told, and I know, for example, in the States, any medication with codeine is not available over the counter, to the point that anybody who's ever gone to somebody in the States, 9 times out of 10, your friend in the States will say, will you bring over a packet of Nurofen Plus for me? Because you can't get them there. And there's no denying...
That's a bit of codeine, but look at the problem in the States. People are going to the doctor, I have a sore knee. Here, take these 20 milligram fentanyl. It's opioids. It's all opioids. At the end of the day, we look at a fella in town who's addicted to heroin going, look at him, but I'll go to my doctor and get 50 benzos. When you come on, you're on the same stuff as the fella in town that's on heroin. It all comes from the same plant. It all comes from a poppy plant in Afghanistan. That's it.
All right, stay there for 1 second. So, yes, you would like to see a ban on all over-the-counter medication for painkillers?
No, not all painkillers. All painkillers. If you go to your doctor and your doctor will have it on file, hold on a minute, you got 100 paracetamol last month, what did you do with them? I can't give you any more of them. As simple as, you're not having people going into...
Okay, now, for people who are on a medical card, that's fine. You can go to your doctor and you can get a prescription off your doctor and you won't pay an awful lot of money for it. But for people who aren't... So, for example, I was in a pharmacy a couple of weeks ago. I had a chronic toothache, and I got medication that had codeine in it. Now, I used... I used a couple of tablets. The pain eventually went away. Grand, job done. I still have a few of the tablets at home. Now, why should I not be allowed to do that just because somebody else is strung out on codeine?
why shouldn't I be allowed to smoke cannabis because everybody else vilifies cannabis? Do you hear what I'm saying? So then that brings up the next point is all the doctors, all the pharmacies and all the hospitals need to be digitised. So for instance, you're not on a medical card because you have a decent job, you're making a decent wage, so you're not entitled to it, so it's going to cost you money. So that way, if we have it on a digital system and you use your same pharmacist all the time, she can type into it's your pharmacist, they know what's wrong with you by the pills that they're giving you, so your data isn't hidden. The pharmacist, if you go into the pharmacist and you have gonorrhea, she knows by the pills or whatever she's giving you have gonorrhea, so you're not hiding your private life. So the pharmacist will go onto a computer and type in your PPS number and your doctor will have it. Well, I'm sorry there, Peter. Now, your doctor's saying here he has a hold on all painkillers for you. You will need to go see him or go see the D doctor. And that will save then everybody.
But again, I'm asking the question, Peter, why should the average person who wants a strong painkiller every now and again be penalised and have to go to a doctor? For example, to get that packet of...
No, you wouldn't have, if we digitised it, you wouldn't have to go to the doctor. You'd go to your doctor maybe once or twice with pain, and as long as your doctor hasn't...
But should I even have to give me name and address to buy a packet of painkillers? I just have a toothache. I just want rid of the toothache. I shouldn't have to fill out a form.
Unfortunately, we have nearly 1,000 deaths a year related to painkillers, so that you'll have to suffer. Me as well. I try my best not to take painkillers. I'd rather suffer through a headache. I had a toothache a while ago, and I went to my doctor and said, I need something, just a couple of tablets to help me. The doctor gave me 28 Tramadol, which is pure opioids, 200 milligrams Tramadol. I was like, what the hell? I can get €25 for one pill if I wanted it for one of them.
All right, do me a favour, stay in the line there for 1 second, Peter. He's saying all pain medication should be on prescription, or at least in some sort of a computerised system where you have to give your name and address every time you're buying pain medication, and then it shows up on all pharmacy systems. Now, that makes a bit of logical sense, I suppose. I'd love to hear from you on this on 6797 981. You can text or WhatsApp us on 0877 98 98 98. Lads, I don't get it, says this message. Are they getting a buzz or what from them? What's the point? I just don't get it, says Dave. No, it's nothing to do with getting a buzz. It's to do with addiction. And just like people who smoke cigarettes, you don't get a buzz from smoking a cigarette, but you're addicted to the nicotine in the cigarette. Similarly, some people get addicted to the codeine in these tablets, which is why they were restricted somewhat a couple of years ago. Call me now, 6797 981. Should we ban, or should the sale of codeine products be restricted to prescription? Greg, I'll be with you straight after the break. You were listening yesterday, and you've some good reasons as to why we should have a ban on the sale of codeine.
100%, yeah.
All right, I'll be with you straight after the break.
98 FM's Dublin Talks with Des Kelly Interiors. New wood flooring fitted in time for Christmas. DesKelly.ie. 98 FM.
We're in the middle of a conversation following on from yesterday's discussion with people who were addicted to very strong painkillers like Nurofen Plus or Solpadeine, which contain codeine, and we're asking, should there be further restrictions on the sale of these products? In my country, in the Czech Republic, you have to show ID when buying Nurofen. I wonder, is that an age thing, or do they make a note of who you are in their computer system? I'd be interested to hear the answer to that. And then another message says, I don't think they should ban them. Plenty of people can and do use them very responsibly. And to that person, I would put myself in that category. I did use Solpadeine a couple of weeks ago for pain, and there's still half a packet at home. I didn't need to use them all because thankfully the pain went away. Now, Greg, you were listening in yesterday. You heard some of the people that we talked to. Why do you think we should either ban them or at least have the sale of codeine-based products restricted?
Yeah, I'll tell you why. Well, they shouldn't be banned. No, absolutely not. But the idea of, Mrs. Such and Such, you were here last week, and kind of, maybe going, oh, have you gone through them already? Basically, it needs to be a lot tighter. My mother went through a stage in her life. Now she's an amazing person now. There's not a bother on her, but she had 30 odd suicide attempts in the space of 2 years, to the point where
we were actually breaking into her apartment, and we had the guy to fix the door on speed dial. It was shocking.
Really?
Yeah, no, it was absolutely shocking. We were taking turns in who was kind of literally walk out of work to see if Mum was alive or not. Like, absolutely mad stuff.
And what was she doing?
She had basically left a relationship that was very controlling and narcissistic, and you'd never think it by looking at her family. And she was just swallowing a load of tablets. She got on to Nurofen Plus, and she was on them for quite a long time. And basically what was happening was, there was such trouble at home that she was taking these to numb herself, probably without even realizing. And then, basically she was complaining of sore back, sore this, sore that, sore the other, and that was her excuse to take more. And what we didn't realize was that she was actually going there quite regularly. She's a very trusting person. The people in the chemist would have felt that way. And she was saving up tablets. And some days, there was a lady on yesterday said she took a number of tablets. My mum, on more than 2 or 3 occasions, has taken over 100 pills at once.
At once?
At once. And I was on the far side of the world. I got a phone call to say that basically, yeah, you're coming home to a funeral. She was out cold for about 3 or 4 days. She swallowed over 130 tablets, mixture of tablets. You're talking.
And was it, Greg, an addiction to the contents of the tablets, or was it her way of numbing the pain of her life?
It was both, 100%. You can't say it was one or the other. Initially, it would have been numbing the pain, but what happens when you start numbing the pain and you take more tablets? Codeine kicks in and you get addicted. So you can't say it was either, I can't sit here and say, no, it was 100% addiction. It wasn't. But the addiction definitely came along because obviously there's codeine in the tablets. So she was in and out of a mental institution to try and help her out, and now they did an amazing job and she came around. But the point is that even when she was coming out after a couple of weeks, knowing she was a suicide risk, they were not monitoring what she was getting out of the chemist. It was absolutely shocking. So there needs to be some sort of you go to get a coffee and they stamp your coffee card for people like this, but they just don't do it here. And we got to the point where it's like, right, the doctors and the chemists are not going to monitor what the hell she's buying, so we're just going to have to do it ourselves. And when you're smashing in windows on a regular basis to see your mum foaming out of the mouth, to be dragged out, and at the same time your man's coming to fix the door like he fixed it 2 weeks ago, it's scary stuff. But that happened. Now, she came through it, and she's made miraculous recovery. But the point is, she was on Nurofen Plus, and I remember going down day after day, every couple of days, and just getting 2 or 3 packs of these things for her. So,
Okay, so you would like to see them on prescription? Or at least have some system where you have to give ID in order to get them?
100%. I know there's a lot of people out there that can go I don't even take tablets when I'm sick. I just don't. I haven't been that.
Like myself, I very rarely take tablets now, I'll be honest.
No, I just don't. I just eat my veg and do my thing. But look, there's a lot of people out there that just would never do that. But the thing is, even the people with the best intentions could have a bad couple of months and end up on these things because they might have a serious back problem. And they could easily end up just addicted to the fact that there's codeine in tablets.
Well, stay there for 1 second, Greg, because Alex, you believe that this would cause huge waiting problems in doctors if we were to make codeine a prescription-only drug.
Of course it will. Look how the state it is now. It takes me 2 or 3 days to get an appointment for the GP. And let alone thinking that I'm going to pay for that appointment. Now, that's going to be useless. And as I said, before I say anything else, I did experience addiction at home with Valium or Xanax. I know they are not the same, but addiction
but they are prescription medications.
Exactly. So it's not that I don't have empathy for this. I do. But we know very well, if you're addicted to something, you'll find your way.
And I think that was one of the points that was made by the Pharmacy Union earlier on, that if you really want to get your hands on the drugs, as one of the men said yesterday, you will be able to get family and friends to do it if you have to.
Obviously, and the thing is just making the rest of the people to pay for the appointment. And we know how it is with the GP right now in Ireland. It's not like we're great with the medical system. It's just, it would be pointless. And I don't understand where the woman comes from. But let me tell you something. What does she think she will solve with this? Will this stop like a current addiction? Will this stop making people addicted to it? Because in my opinion, none of those will work, to be honest.
All right, and one last call on this, and that's you, Sophie. You're on 98 FM. How are you?
Hi, good.
Sophie, you're a pharmacy technician.
Yes.
And, yeah, go on, tell me what you've witnessed.
I work in a small independent pharmacy and I work 40 hours a week, so I know all my regulars quite well who get their prescriptions. But then I also see the people that come in every day looking for codeine, looking for cold and flu remedies, like you name it, I can see it. And the dangers of them coming in is that we don't know where else they've been. We don't know if they've gone up the road. We don't know who else has their family come in and got it. And it needs to be more controlled. I know over in other countries...
Okay, so we've already found out that you, and it happened to me a couple of weeks ago, went in, asked for Solpadeine, was asked a couple of questions, what am I using it for, blah, 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 don't use it for more than 3 days, and there you go, Mr. Kennedy, thanks very much. And off I went. Yeah. And the point is that I could go to a chemist down the road and do the exact same thing. I could go to another town, do the exact same thing. That there's no other restriction other than the pharmacist asking you a couple of questions.
Exactly. And it needs to be more controlled. Like, I work in a small independent pharmacy, but I have no control when that person comes in, asks for a box of Solpadeine, and the next person comes in and I could see 4 or 5 people in a row asking for Nurofen Plus, Solpadeine, Microleaf Pink, and they're coming in, but I don't know where else they've been. And I can see by their face, the colour in their face, they could possibly have a bleeding ulcer from taking too many Nurofen Plus, because it's the ibuprofen that's going to give you that stomach ulcer that could eventually kill you because you're taking too many.
And you've had people shouting at you and demanding these tablets.
Yeah, I've had people and I've gone, no, I think an alternative medicine could be better for this condition, and they will shout at us. They'll give us so much abuse and then they'll just walk out the shop. And we're standing there and we're going, why? Like, it's our job. We're doing our job to try and help you. But yet we're getting abuse off these patients, and it's just, I think, like in pharmacies, it's just not controlled enough. Like, we can't.
And you've also known of people being followed.
Yes, one of my friends, she worked out in Dublin and she refused Nurofen Plus and she got followed to her car and she just got into it. Luckily, it was only down the road, but you know, that's what these patients are. Like, and I've had junkies come in looking for Solpadeine, Nurofen Plus, and sometimes you just give it to them to get them out of the shop. Like, it's a horrible feeling.
So, okay, we're all kind of discussing whether or not it's practical to have them as a prescription-only medication, and yeah, that might be all right if you're a medical card holder, although, as we said, it can increase the waiting times in pharmacies, or in doctor surgeries. But what's your solution? Would it be that I have to show ID that gets registered, or I have to give them a PPS number, or what?
Something like, the public services card that's come out. Show that has your ID on it, something that has a number on it that we can see where you last got a box of Solpadeine or your Nurofen Plus from. So we can know, okay, you got X amount, that's 24 Nurofen Plus. If you're taking it properly, it'll last you 3 days. You shouldn't be coming into a pharmacy more than once a week looking for codeine-containing products. Like, and we just have no control over it. And working in the pharmacy, you do feel unsafe when these patients come in and giving you all sorts of abuse because of it. Like, it shouldn't. None, like myself or any other person working in the pharmacy, shouldn't have to feel like that. or have and then you have other patients watching these confrontations as well in the shop, and that makes the other customers feel uncomfortable as well.
Okay, so it would help you in your job to feel less threatened if you had to ask for ID or your social services card or your PPS number or something in order to ensure that this person isn't going from chemist to chemist.
Yeah, so there's a patient medication record there, so we can see.
Yeah, so you'd be able to see, well, I'm sorry, you got the same tablets in such and such a pharmacy down the road only 10 minutes ago.
Exactly.
All right, good to talk to you, Sophie, and thanks very much indeed. It's a whole can of worms, and when you hear the stories that we heard yesterday, you do feel that there is some need for further restriction, whatever way that's brought in. I don't know if necessarily prescription is the answer, but some form of identification to be able to get these tablets so that they know. Anyway, thanks very much indeed for all of your calls, comments, texts and opinions. This is 98 FM's Dublin Talks. I'm Adrian Kennedy and we're here until midday today. After the break, I have a question for you, and I want you to text or WhatsApp the answer to me right now to 0877 98 98 98. Have you ever had a sticky situation with a date on Tinder? Something that you just didn't feel comfortable with, or something that actually was a little bit nasty, or whatever. I'd love you to text your story to me to 0877 98 98 98. Because after the break, we're going to be hearing about this story of a woman who was raped by a convicted sex offender she met on Tinder, has described him as a monster who abused her trust and used her like a piece of dirt. They met through Tinder. Have you had any sticky situations? Text or WhatsApp 0877 98 98 98.
98 FM's Dublin Talks with Des Kelly Interiors. Delivering your new bed in time for Christmas. DesKelly.ie. 98 FM.
Have you ever had a sticky situation or worse with somebody that you met through Tinder? If you have, I'd love to hear from you. You can text or WhatsApp 0877 98 98 98. 0877 98 98 98. The reason I mention this is a woman raped by a convicted sex offender she met on Tinder has described him as a monster who abused her trust and used her like a piece of dirt. This is the story of a 37-year-old called Patrick Nevin, formerly from Dunleary, who attacked two women in the space of 4 days after chatting them up on the Tinder dating app. Michael Doyle is a crime reporter with the Sun newspaper and has been covering this story. Michael, tell me about this particular case, because he's involved in two different cases relating to the same thing.
That's right. He actually attacked three women in the space of just over a week. There's the two women who were before the court yesterday. One was rape and one was a sexual assault. He was actually convicted last December in the circuit court of sexual assault of a Brazilian student who he drove to the UCD campus, and he was due to be sentenced for that on Friday. That case has become, the judge said she'll sentence him once the kind of central cases have been dealt with. So there was three women he attacked using the exact same modus operandi in the space of just over a week in July 2014. Now, one of the girls yesterday spoke about the effect that it had on her meeting him online and what he did to her. He drove her to an isolated place in Julianstown near a graveyard and proceeded to rape her in the passenger seat of his car.
Now, I understand she described how she had hoped to basically meet a boyfriend through Tinder and certainly didn't expect to meet a monster.
I mean, I've been on Tinder myself. I kind of know what it's like. Some people use Tinder for different reasons. I think there are people out there who use Tinder for hookup purposes. The vast majority of people who are on it are trying to find a partner. Generally, you'll speak to somebody online on the app for a period of time before you agree to meet them, and he obviously gained her trust in the conversations they'd had leading up to that.
It is a little bit more, or is it a little bit more risky than meeting somebody face to face? Meeting them through an app like this, where there's a little bit more anonymity to it.
Absolutely. I mean, it's Tinder and Jenny. I mean, it's not regulated in any way. I mean, you could be chatting to anybody. You've no idea who anybody is. You've no idea if the person you're looking at is the same person. They could have a different photograph. They could be using a different name. It is quite risky, and it is. I suppose it's up to your own devices to decide if the person you're chatting to is who they say they are, and you're prepared to go ahead and meet them. And in this case, sadly, for a couple of women, in this case, they were dealing with somebody who's a history of violence against women, Patrick Nevin. It's not. These were 3 cases, but there's a case back when he was 20 years of age where he violently attacked a then girlfriend and was jailed for 7 years. So that was the risk. Certainly, the women in this cases were taken, and he used Tinder, I suppose, to prey on vulnerable women in many ways.
Now, as you said yourself, Michael, Tinder is unregulated. However long he gets sentenced for these particular crimes, he will inevitably be released from prison eventually, and could just hop back onto Tinder.
He could too. I mean, I'd like to think, because this is somebody I've been familiar with for quite some time. I've been waiting for the day we were able to name him and put his face and name all over the paper. I mean, but he'd be in prison, I'd say, for the next few years. I mean, when he gets out, there's that kind of fade factor. He might be anonymous in many ways to many people who mightn't remember these particular cases. He could also move country and try it in a different jurisdiction. That's where I suppose the post-release thing comes into it, but there's nothing to stop him from doing it again and when he gets out.
In terms of this particular case that was before the courts yesterday, and I understand he's being sentenced for a separate case, but similar, on Friday, what did he put this poor girl through?
Well, the 2 cases in particular, yes, they were very similar. He spoke to someone while the 2 women agreed to go for a drive with him in his car, and I know people might look at that and think, God, what were they thinking? This is a strange man, because they were agreeing to drive off. But he drove them both to an isolated graveyard near Dewlinstown. In the first case, there was a bit of consensual sexual activity initially, and then the girl did say stop, and she refused to continue. She told him in the messages beforehand that she was not looking for a one-night stand or a hookup or anything like that. But then when she continued to say stop, he put her seat back, her passenger seat back. He got on top of her, and he's a big man. He's a regular gym goer. He's quite muscular. I mean, she probably wouldn't have stood much of a chance. And he proceeded to rape her, put his fingers inside her, and rape her a few times. And she got out of the car, I think, at one point, and he apologised and said he got carried away, and he convinced her to let him drive her home. And she spoke about the effect that incident had on her. In the second case, which was the sexual assault case, the woman was not in court. She handed in the victim impact for the judge to read privately, and he basically sexually assaulted her on a couple of occasions. And each time, the only reason she got back into the car with him was because she didn't know where she was. She was on a dark country road, and he promised to bring her home. And so that's kind of the nature of what he did. He didn't rape the second girl, but he certainly subjected her to a terrifying ordeal of sexual assault.
Realistically, and finally, Michael, what are we looking at in terms of sentence for this guy? How long is he likely to spend behind bars?
I would be surprised if there was anything less than kind of 7 to 10, possibly more. It depends. I suppose in many ways he's been in custody for quite some time as it is. I think over nearly 2 to 3 years, kind of awaiting sentence. So any sentence he does receive will be backdated to whenever he went into custody. So I'd be surprised. I'd be thinking, if I was a guessing man, I'd be like 10 years. I'd imagine would be the kind of ballpark kind of figure the judge would be looking at.
All right, Michael Doyle, crime reporter with The Sun, thanks very much indeed for joining us on 98 FM. It just shows you, now obviously, as with most things in life, the vast majority of people on apps like Tinder are decent people just looking for a bit of love or a bit of fun or whatever. But there are vile dirtbags like that guy. Patrick Nevin is his name. He's 37 years of age. His photograph is in the paper. Make a mental note of it should he eventually be released from prison. His photograph, Michael has in The Sun, and as you heard him say, he's delighted to be able to publish his photograph. Have a look at the photograph. This is the guy you need to make a mental note of, and look at his tattoos and everything else. This guy you never ever want to come in contact with. I want to just do a very quick social experiment. And this is for women only. I want you to text the answer to this question. If you are a Tinder user, do you feel safe using it? In other words, do you feel safe in using it and then following up on it and meeting with somebody or whatever? Simply text the word yes or no to 0877 98 98 98.